What's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams with Making Money with Stephen A. Williams here on YouTube. And in today's video, what we're going to talk about is the impact on communications. Now, I'm not talking about communication with the words and things that you might say to people. What I'm going to talk about is the communications of your body. Now, I was speaking with someone, family member, and they were talking about, before I even get to somebody, it seems like they don't want to talk to me. And I was saying to myself, because you got to be guided on what you say to family members. And the reason why you got to be guided what you say to family members is because the wall of trust is down. So like, if I say this to you, you can take it or leave it. But when a family member tells you something or a close friend tells you something, you could take it the wrong way. And the reason why you could take it the wrong way is because your wall is down. You trust that person. And people who we trust, we think that they always tell us the truth, even though they don't. So here, let me tell you the impacts on communications, on people taking what you look like the wrong way, even though you're not thinking that way, or you might want to talk to them, whatever. But this is what happens to people, and this is what frustrates a lot of people, and what I think a lot of people in today's world are living with the consequences of, is because they don't know this stuff. What I'm about to tell you is things that you do on a daily basis on accident. And if you're not getting the results that you want, it's because you have some things that you need to work on internally to be able to get those results. Some of those things are the way that you carry yourself. And some of those things are the beliefs that you have inside of your mind about how things should work. And then the other things is just the building confidence, in that you get confidence from doing things. A lot of people have that backwards. They think that you go into it with confidence. Yes, you go towards something with confidence, but actually confidence is an end result of you accomplishing something. Because you can go and try to do something else that you don't know nothing about, that you had full confidence in the other thing that you accomplished, and then you right back at ground zero with trying to see if you had the confidence to do the new thing. So the impacts on communication is misinterpretation. People might misinterpret your expressions or your body language, leading to misunderstandings and assumptions about the way you feel either about them, or the way that you feel about yourself, or the intentions, whatever. We know in application of misinterpretation of the way that you look, the expressions on your face, that people can take it a certain way. It can also make social anxiety, which is something that is very prevalent in today's world. If you appear anxious or uncomfortable, it can make others feel uneasy or less likely to engage with you, because they don't know what's going to happen. Are you going to blow up? They don't know. But you're setting off that feeling. Keep in mind, this is before you said anything to anybody. Before you've said anything to anybody. The next thing is authority and confidence. Confident body language or expressions can command respect and encourage conversation, while nervous or unsure behavior can have the opposite effect. One of my mentors, Marshall Silver, he's really one of the greatest hypnotists in the world during his time. He would say in his in the audios that I would listen to from him, is that he would say that even if you are nervous, even if you don't have any confidence, you can actually pretend to not be nervous and pretend to have confidence and accomplish the same the same goals as an individual who knows that they're confident and has the body language to say that they're confident. So I'll say that again. An individual who is nervous, who does not feel confident, could pretend not to be nervous and pretend to have confidence and still accomplish the same goals that an individual who knows that they're confident and and has the right body language that shows that they're not nervous, that they could achieve the same goal. And the reason why, and it's just like if you were outside as a kid and you're playing cops and robbers, or you're playing doctor, or you're playing like your cowboys and Indians or firemen, all of that stuff, you pretended. And there was a certain period of time when you were pretending that it became real. So like you picked up a stick and you pretended like that was your equipment for, I'm not going to say the word because it could trigger the video, but that, you know what I mean. Or say that we used to do this. I used to pretend like I was Evel Knievel. If you're too young to know who Evel Knievel is, go online and look up Evel Knievel. He was stunt man who would jump over cars, and he would always crash. Some of the times he made it, most of the time he didn't. And I used to pretend on my bicycle, jumping up ramps over stuff, and I would crash some of the times. And while I was doing it, I was pretending to be Evel Knievel. And I remember one of the times with my cousins, we set the ramp up too high. Like too high. Like I must have really got into the character of Evel Knievel, and I jumped with that bike and I landed on my tailbone and I could not breathe. And I remember my cousin coming up behind me doing the Heimlich, and I'm like, I don't have nothing in my throat, but he was trying to get me to breathe. That knocked the breath out of me. But the reason why I say that is that during that time, when I was doing that, I got myself hyped up. I was a little kid, probably 12 years old, hyped up on the bicycle, full speed up the ramp to do the jump without any thoughts of the consequences on the other side if I didn't make it. That's what happens with people with confidence. See, you could pretend to be confident and you could just move forward and accomplish the goals that you want, and then all of a sudden you have confidence. That's how it works. So now let's get back to the topic of the video, is because there's a lot of people. I see videos. I even see people walking around, and when I'm walking around, people feel that they can approach me. Like they can actually come up to me and ask me a question. Or if I'm checking out at a register, that it's more than just where they can just check out what I'm buying. Like they feel that they want to say something to me. And that's because I must give them an open impression about myself. Without saying anything, they feel that way. And people are going to do things based off of feeling. Because the first level of dealing with someone is going to be the way that you carry yourself. And that's going to be where they can see confidence. It could be with your clothes. It could be with the way, if you're dressed neatly. It could be, your face, maybe rings, watches. Like all of this stuff is like an inventory that is taken in a snapshot. But then they can look at you and they can see like the way that your facial expressions, like if you're coming up to a person like this, or you're coming up to a person like this, where you have in a tense, like, you could be the nicest person in the world. Remember, have you ever heard this said before? He's a big teddy bear. And you hear that from the people who know him, but from the people who don't know him, they get the wrong impression because of the facial expression, because of the way that the person carries themselves. They're carrying themselves in a way that they don't even know. So you might be thinking, well, okay, how can I find out how I'm carrying myself? Easiest way is to just ask other people. Or if you don't want to ask other people because you don't want to, you're not ready to take on that type of feedback from people, that type of critique from people, then what you could do is you can practice when you're, like, say you're checking out at the register. Pay attention to your facial features. Pay attention to the way you carry yourself. Pay attention to looking at people in the eye. Pay attention to you saying something first rather than waiting on them to say something. If somebody says how you're doing, you say, I'm doing great, and how are you doing? Like, don't just end it right there, because the person is waiting on that signal. But another way that I was thinking about when I was preparing for this video is what you could do is you can go and look at yourself in the mirror and you can start talking to yourself. And some of the times you could see what you might be doing subconsciously, like the way that you're either moving your body or the facial expressions. Now, you have to be careful with that, though, because here's something that people that we all have to be careful of, is that when we see stuff, we're seeing it through a filter. So you can think that you're being open to people. You can think that that you're being nice and that you have the facial expressions. That's because when you look at things, it's going through a filter. So you're thinking that way, but you know that it's not that way because you have people reacting to you a different way. So let's talk about facial expressions. You can have negative facial expressions, so you need to watch out for these. You can have frowning, scowling, glaring. Those can signal that you're angry. Because people don't want to walk up on people who they feel are angry because they don't know if you're going to explode on them. It can also figure that you are disapproval or hostile, and it makes people very hesitant to want to approach you. So negative expressions, frowning, scowling, or glaring, can signal anger, disapproval, or hostility, making people hesitant to want to even approach you. Lack of expression, a blank or neutral face, can interpret a disinterest, boredom, or unapproachable, discouraging other people from initiating the conversation. So if you have that blank face, remember when I was saying some of the expressions, like just like this, that can stop people. It doesn't stop all people. There are some people who, no matter what, are going to try to engage people, but most people, I would say 95% of the people, if you have those type of expressions, they're not going to try to approach you. And as a matter of fact, they're going to withdraw members. Now, positive expression, smiling and maintaining a pleasant expression, generally inviting interaction and making you seem more approachable and friendly. So like having a positive expression, like smiling, like people, they say, man, you have a great smile. And then like my beard, people comment on my beard, people comment on my clothes. But I think that all of that starts with me first giving the right expressions, not making people get distant away from me. And this could take work for some people. This could be, very natural for some people. Now let's talk about the body language. So if you have a closed posture, say you walk up on people and you're like this, closed arms, you turn your body away. So just think someone is trying to talk to you and you're like this, and then you're like, like you're nodding your head and you're like, or you're hunched over, like you're talking to people and you're just like head shifted back like that. All of that type of stuff can show that you're disengaging. You don't want to be bothered. You don't want to even be in the conversation with that individual, and people will start to move back from you. If you have an open posture where you're like this, or you have your hands down below, your hands are like this, open, like you're like this. This here, it means trust and open when you're talking to people. And so that right there can invite people. or you walk up to a person, you shake their hand, and then you put your hands to the side, and then you're constantly moving your hands. You'll see politicians or people in business, they're like moving their hands, and they're like pointing at things and stuff like that, getting your attention. This is all stuff that is body language of individuals that can either show that you're inviting people or that you're trying to retract people away from you. Also, when you're coming into contact with someone, this is something that I got a lot of training on being in sales, is that you don't want to be too far away from a person. You don't want to be too close to a person. Like, there's like a sweet spot on talking to people. The more you know the individual, the closer you can be. As a matter of fact, the more you know people, you could probably touch them on the shoulder, be like, man, or hey, if I usually do this with men, I don't do with women, I don't do this with, but like if it's a close associate that I've known for a period of time, I'll be like, man, this stuff here works. And as a matter of fact, when you touch that person on the shoulder, that lets them know that, hey, we're good with each other. It's like a signal to someone. And if they come back and they touch you, you know that it's good, because they're like, hey, things are good. We're going to move forward with this contract. And then they come back and they say, yeah, man, we're going to move forward. I like the plan that you have in action. And they touch your shoulder. You know that you've made a connection, and that individual is like, hey, we're together with this thing. And that's what you're trying to get when you're communicating with people. Another thing that you got to watch out for is the type of eye contact that you have with an individual. So if your body language is not matching, you don't have all of your facial expressions, your body language. If you got all of that wrong, and then you're staring down at someone, they're going to take the way that you're staring at them the wrong way. So imagine this: you got this body language like this, and then you really like this person, and you're looking at them like this, and you're looking them square in the eyes. How do you think that person is going to take what you're doing? Like the facial expressions of what you're doing to them. It's gonna scare them some. They might think, hey, what is there something wrong? Like, is there something wrong with this situation? But when you're communicating with someone and you got all of the other stuff right, it's like if you get all of the other stuff right, you're already 95% in the game. If you got all of the other stuff right, then you look at them and you're like, this is the way that I do it. You'll talk to them and you look them in the eye. You're like, man, this is great. I'm glad to be here talking with you. And you go into the subject, and then you look off to the side and you look back at them, and then you got to look at how they like people to talk to them. Some people might turn and they'll be like, and they'll just look over at you, look at some other stuff. If that's the way that they like to talk to people, then you should mirror that same way of talking to them, because that's the way they like to talk to people. So they might be like, well, yeah, I'm glad that we're having this conversation. And then they look over to the side and they maybe do some gestures, and then they come back and look back at you. You should talk to them that same way, because that's how they feel comfortable having people talk to them. Now, if they talk to you and they square up and they're like, hey, I'm glad that we're here having this conversation. We got to get this business contract signed. I need this deal to go through. And they're looking you square in the eyes. You need to look at them square in the eyes when you are talking to them. And you also have to be careful that when they are talking, so let's just say that they're talking, they look you square in the eyes and they look off to the side and they're listening to you talk. Maybe they're nodding their head. You need to be looking directly at them while you're talking, even if they're off to the side, because when they come back, they need to know that you were paying attention to them. And then when you're talking, and if they look over to the side, you look to the side also, because that's the way that they like to talk and conversate. But you need to be prepared to be looking directly at them when they come back. I've learned this over a period of time. And it's because there's a feedback loop inside of all of us. And the feedback loop is not necessarily on what people are saying. The feedback loop is trying to communicate to that individual's body and feeling that they are being. And we get stuck with thinking that it's all with words. We think that it's just all with words. And it's more than words. Like, look at the way that I'm using my hands. Like, I'm talking to you and we think that it's all about words. We think that it's all about just stuff that's written down. We think that it's all about contracts. We think that it's all about all of these things that are written down on a piece of paper. And now, when I'm saying that, I'm using my hands, your body is getting certain feelings that can go through it, right? So that's what you need to understand. It's more than just about the words that you say. It's more than just about saying that we have this contract here. You can even think about times that you maybe signed contracts, that you would look at the contract and the finance person or whoever you're signing the contract with would be like, look down at the contract. They might even roll their hand down it. They might even point to things that they think that you should pay attention to that are more important. That's all non-verbal. It's all non-verbal. And you got to pay attention to that type of stuff if you're going to be in business and if you're going to be a great communicator. All right. Thank you for your time. Please post your questions and comments about the subject on this video, which is we're talking about how to stop yourself from stopping people from wanting to talk to you before you even say any words out of your mouth. Like, stop people from talking to them before they even say anything. And I just gave you some things that you need to be aware of so you don't have those issues, because you can be thinking that people don't like you, and it's because of the way that you're either carrying yourself, facial expressions, and your body postures, and the signals that you're giving out to people. So please post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and founder of Blue Book Digital Marketing and Making Money with Stephen A. Williams here on YouTube.